hasn't been at home since they beat NC State back in the second to last week of January.
They've played 6 games all year at
the
home.
Smith Center. And I know that we're in COVID era. There's no fans in the stands and all that. But you and I can look at the Carolina team that's on the court in the Smith Center and the Carolina that's on the court, whether it's in Cameron Indoor or John Paul Jones or Little John, and tell you that the team that plays at home is a much better team.
Well, it's also different this year. You have to remember that this is not like normal years where you're traveling, you get to rest beforehand, and then you come in on game day, you get into the building, roughly 2 or 3 hours beforehand. Now, everything about that is cut short. If they can fly you in the day of the game, you fly in the day of the game. When you get to the arena, there's no, sit down and hang out. You probably, I believe you have to undergo COVID testing, or they have to do at least something, temperature check, something like that. And then you don't have as much time to warm up. Your rhythm is ruined. When you're at home, it's a little bit different. You're the home team. You're a little more comfortable. You're right on your own campus whenever it's game day. You probably can get there a little bit earlier to go through whatever COVID protocols you have to go through. And you may not be able to get out on the court earlier, but you're in the locker room. You're able to settle in and sort of have a more traditional game day rhythm. That has to be taken into effect. I mean, in previous years, especially for some of the veteran guys, you get into a game day rhythm. Even when you're on the road, okay, this, we're going to get here, so many hours beforehand. We know that we're going to go over certain stuff when we get there. This year is completely different, and I think that's why you've seen a much different team at home than you've seen on the road. And yeah, they've been on the road a lot. Now, the good news is that to finish out the year
they're
here,
gonna be at home.
They're at home a lot.
Yeah,
but. I think adding another game like this and potentially getting another win on the schedule, this is the thing. People say, well, how much does it help? Well, it don't hurt if you win. I mean, if you win this game, it's not going to hurt you. It's going to allow you to feel pretty good about yourself, even though it might not be the greatest team on the other side. If you can win this game and win this game convincingly, you would feel pretty good about where you're at.
I think this is a weird game that I think if Carolina comes out and they win, which they should win, and they're going to be expected to win. But I still think you can learn a lot about yourself in this game, which you don't usually, you're not usually playing non-conference games against opponents from the CAA in the middle of February. But this is COVID. This is 2021. I think Roy Williams is going to put a lot of stock in playing this game. I saw someone joking about how he was like probably sitting in the office and watching film of James Madison Townsend. I don't think that's funny because I do feel like he's going to put the same amount of effort and preparation into this game because if not, they can wind up and beat you. They played Syracuse, a team that you've played, and they played them tough, only lost to them by 6 in the Carrier Dome. So this is a team that's going to be comfortable. They're not going to be afraid to come into an empty building and play you, or they wouldn't have taken the game. So
right. Yeah.
And, you look at the matchup predictor. I mean, look, even though Carolina's still got a 92.4% chance to win, the ESPN BPI, the Basketball Power Index, gives them a 7.6 chance to beat the Tar Heels. That's the highest of the mid-major non-conference games Carolina has played in this season. So with that, we'll go ahead and get to the predictions and we'll get out of here. I might be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'll come on here and own it. I think Carolina's going to win, and I think they're going to play well doing so. I think this will feel a lot like Duke, where they'll play a really, really good game on the offensive end, and I think that's what's important. We all know Carolina's going to struggle defensively. They're going to have their issues. Those aren't going to be fixed during this season. We're all concerned about Carolina's offensive part of their game. I think they'll respond in a big way. I think Caleb Love will have a big game. I think the bigs will be dominant because if they're not dominant, Roy Williams may make them do duck walks during halftime. And I think Carolina's going to win tomorrow night.
Yeah. So it's like Duke. Yeah. I think bringing up that North Carolina Northeastern rivalry. Right. So much history, so much passion. No, I think it's. What your point is that you think offensively they're going to play as well as they did in that game. I think, yeah, you're looking at potentially one of those types of games in this one. I think, like you said, it all starts with Caleb Love. What type of night does he have for Carolina? I think he'll play well in this game. I think, some of the main things that you're looking for from Carolina is can they, hold on to the basketball, stop the turnovers that became an issue in that game against Virginia. And, yeah, really the main thing is can they sort of work out whatever problem they had against against Virginia close to the basket because they were, I mean, what was
13 of 28 on layups.
13 of 28. They were 6 of 14 at halftime. So nothing changed in the second half from what we saw in the first half. Can they be able to shake that off, rebound, and play the way that they want to in this game? I think they can. I think it'll be a nice win. And I think, if they end up winning huge and really gaining some confidence, it might be a game that you look back on later in the year and say to yourself, this was big that they did put this on the schedule because it got us where we ultimately wanted to go.
You mentioned trying to work out the kinks from that Virginia loss, and we were talking the other night, and at first I was very frustrated with, I guess, Roy Williams' lack of emotions in that game. But as I sat there and I thought about that game, that was the best Carolina's offense has gotten looks against Virginia in the last couple of years. So maybe that's why he wasn't as mad, because they were getting really, really good shots.
Couldn't finish.
They just weren't making the shots. And so I think that'll be something to see in this game as well. Is Carolina getting good offense, or they're getting good looks at the basket? And then, more importantly, are they converting on those good looks, what hopefully will lead them to a much-needed win? Well, with that, we're going to shut this thing down. Before we let you go, talk about the website, HeelToughBlog.com. We've got you covered for the Northeastern game. Sarah Wiley will have your preview, and I'll have your recap, and any other basketball news. Me, Sarah, and Mark Krings will have you covered on the football side of things. We are on the off season, but Anthony will keep you covered with any news that comes out of Carolina football. And the Diamond Heels do return to the Diamond this weekend. They'll host James Madison now instead of playing Kentucky after the Wildcats had COVID-19 issues within their program. We'll have a little weekend recap for you all. That'll be available on the HeelToughBlog.com. And lastly, we encourage you guys to rate, review, and subscribe to the Roy's Boys podcast. You can find us on every major podcasting platform, most notably Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, TuneIn, Google Podcasts. Give us a like, review me as the host, review Anthony as the co-host, but most importantly, I want you guys to subscribe. That way you get every podcast and your podcast feed. But with that, I want to thank Anthony for coming on and talk a little Carolina basketball. We thank you guys for listening, and as always, go Tar Heels.